Almost no other car seems to say you mean business as well as the Toyota Land Cruiser. Now this Land Cruiser 300 generation is quite a departure as far as Land Cruisers go. But what is it that makes this car so special and makes people wait years to get one? Let's find out. Breaking from the norm, this generation of the Toyota Land Cruiser isn't exactly larger than the last one, but that still makes it massive. The face seems to have just that degree of intimidation you want from such a car. The chunky, slab-sided look and just how high it sits off the ground makes you sit up and notice. Even the approach and departure angles haven't changed from the last model, but under the skin, quite a lot has been going on. The center of gravity has been lowered by moving the engine 70 mm further back and 28 mm lower. You notice how far back it sits in the engine bay because of this. Now this generation is over 200 kgs lighter than before. Now I just told you that it pretty much is the same dimension. So how has Toyota managed it? Of course the frame itself is much lighter, a lot of new materials, much stronger. But a lot of the panels, the doors, the roof, the bonnet, all of them are aluminium. A far cry from the many sporty coupe SUVs you can get now, the Land Cruiser has a functional boxy glass area that's typical of its brief as a tool to get you places reliably. You do get some flashy chrome finished 20-inch alloys with this ZX version, but the chunky sidewalls are still practical. Ground clearance is a useful 230 mm. Now the Land Cruiser that Toyota will sell to you in India is the 5-seater. Now what that means is you get an absolutely massive boot. As you can see, it's pretty much just a big square storage space, very deep. So whatever size suitcase you want, the biggest that I can think of will probably fit here anywhere you want and will fit quite a few of them. And just like these ladder frame cars, you don't have the spare wheel within the compartment. You do have the toolkit here and the spare wheel is below. Now what that means is you have a fairly high lip, but Toyota has been thoughtful. You have this sort of rubberized panel here so you won't scuff the bodywork. So yeah, with that it should be easy enough to put stuff into the compartment. Now there is some practicality. You have this 100-watt power socket here, but since this doesn't have air suspension, you can't actually lower it like you can say in some rivals, but you do get these quite sturdy sort of straps. The rear is again quite simple with the small lighting that mimics the front and flat panels that put function over form. Now the Land Cruiser was always meant to be a functional tool, and even now when it's become a lot more plush and premium, you still get that sense when you step inside. You won't find any of that polished aluminium or lamb's wool or whatever else you find in other luxury SUVs of this price, but you will get that durable, tough, simple sense that you get in any other Toyota, but elevated. So what you will see is that all the surfaces that you touch are softly padded. The leather here where you would rest your foot, it's all soft materials. You have this nice wood veneer here, but there's also good practicality within this. So you have this absolutely massive glove box. Just look at the size of this owner's manual. And yes, you have cubbies everywhere. So you have this deep storage space here, which in some other markets actually holds a DVD player. But here maybe you can put your phone in, maybe your wallet and so on. You have this really neat kind of arrangement with the big cool box here. It's not just a storage compartment, it actually cools stuff, and I can attest for this working very well as your fridge at home. And yes, you do have that problem that many other ladder frame cars have of the door bins not being all that wide. So even fitting a 1 liter bottle is a bit tight. Even at the back, it's not the biggest. The screen setup is standard Toyota fare. The 12.3-inch touchscreen is similar to what you find in the new Camry with its clean, functional look. It's not the most vibrant or functional one that you can get, and there's only wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but it does the job reliably. You also have an inbuilt sat-nav function and some connected features. With this 2025 model, you get a 12.3-inch driver's display. It's highly configurable and is logical enough once you get the hang of it. With the Land Cruiser, you get some off-road specific data and some smart graphics as you shift through the modes. We do think a Land Rover-like rear-view camera may have been a good addition, since the second row headrest does block out quite a bit of the view in the mirrors. But really, if you are sick and tired of the touch screens and capacitive panels that you see in cars right now, this is for you. There is hard tactile button for pretty much everything. So I can control almost all the functions of the 4-zone climate control from here. The heated and ventilated seats, you have that auto heating and cooling seat function from the Lexus, which is nice. And just the arrangement of it makes so much sense. So you have all the AC controls right within your reach. The start stop button is here. And all the off-road and drive related functions are all well within place. So you have the very tactile rotary selector, which gives you these neat graphics in the screen. The drive mode selectors, the crawl control, all the 4x4 functions are within each other, and the 360-degree view, which brings up a pretty decent camera. And that sense continues to the steering wheel. It's very easy to hold in that sense, just the right size I feel for a big SUV like that. And you have a great mix of buttons, so even when you're not looking, for example, the audio controls have a metallic finish, the adaptive cruise and all the other functions have these rubberized toggle feels. So yeah, it's these small details that really endears the Land Cruiser to you. The Land Cruiser 300 comes with a good set of features. You have most expected creature comforts, but some of the real standout luxury touches you find at this price is missing. Safety features are good too. You have the well-calibrated ADAS and other passive equipment. Now the Land Cruiser's 2850mm wheelbase is actually a bit lesser than, say, other cars of its size, luxury SUVs I mean, and that does show. First of all, you get up, it's quite a step up. You should probably use this ladder. You definitely need to use the step if you're of my height. But once you're inside, you will notice that as with most of these ladder frame SUVs, it's cramped. It's not by any stretch the most spacious car you can get at this price. And yeah, as you can see, for myself, I'm about 5'7". I have enough space, but if you're anywhere close to 6 feet tall, this is going to be a bit of a tight fit. But coming back to me, I can tuck my feet under these seats, and I also have a fairly good amount of headroom actually, because the roof, with there being no sunroof, at least a smaller one, it's been scooped out. Having said that, I do like the seat cushioning. The seat base is very typically Toyota, simple but supportive. It's giving me decent, it's not the best by any stretch again, but decent thigh support. And I can also recline this seat back. It's all manual, you won't get any powered adjustment here for the seats to a good degree, so you can very easily take a nap here. I have heated and cooled seats, the bench on either side. I have a 4-zone climate control, so separate climate zone in each side, and I have my own headphone jack for these screens. I have an HDMI port to watch whatever I want to over here, maybe even play my PlayStation or so on, a 12-volt outlet and 2 Type-C outlets. A miss is that there are no window shades or a sliding mechanism for the seats to free up more legroom, especially in this 5-seater variant. And also some might find this to be a nice touch, but aside from the vents down there, you also get these vents here. I personally don't like them because they blow air right to my face, but some of you might like that feeling. Now coming to the middle passenger, they will be a bit tight, especially if you're a bit taller. As you can see, I'm having to really adjust and tuck my feet in here over this big hump. Now here's another example of the kind of thought that Toyota puts into the Land Cruiser, which really stands out. This button here lets you access this box right from here, so you don't have to bother your front passengers. It's so thoughtful. Now, like most of these traditional off-roaders that have been around for a very long time, the Land Cruiser absolutely nails its driving position. To start with, you're sitting very high up. Even if I were to put my seat fully down, I would still get a properly commanding view out. And when I've adjusted it to my liking, I have this great view right in front, and this is ingenious, the way I have this funnel type bonnet shape, so I can see exactly what's in front of me. So that's very easy in traffic. So even though this is quite a large car, it's not as much of a hassle as you might think. And similarly, the windows, you will notice they're quite large. The A-pillar is not very thick. The sill is low. All typical traits of a proper 4x4, where in the rough stuff you need great visibility. And all of that in the real world or everyday situations helps make this quite easy to maneuver in traffic for its size. While this Land Cruiser 300 is quite different mechanically from the last gen model, the biggest shift is that old diesel V8 is gone, replaced by quite a downsized 3.3 litre twin turbo V6 diesel. The outputs are in the ballpark of what you expect with a motor of this type, putting out 309 PS and 700 Newton meter paired with a 10-speed torque converter. But thankfully, that calm, that very smooth, that laid-back kind of theme that you have in these Toyota SUVs, the diesel ones, that is completely unchanged. So this really does feel especially unstressed. For example, it idles at 600 RPM and the turbo spools up at about 1000-ish, and pretty much every situation you find yourself between 1000 to 1500 RPM. So whether you're cruising at say 100 kmph or just pottering along in the city, you're within that power band because it's making all of its torque right about there. It hardly ever needs the rest of the rev band. It's not a very wide rev band to begin with. It tops out at about 4.5-ish. So it's not sharp and engaging like say how some German diesel luxury SUVs are. It doesn't have that slightly petrol-like character. So as you can probably hear, it's building speed and torque. It's giving you that steady, linear, kind of completely uninterrupted torque that will just let you keep making progress, whatever the terrain, whatever the situation might be. And after a point, you really do get used to that sensation. It gives you a real sense of power and control, which you find to some extent in other cars. But here, just with the mass and everything that's happening around you, just with the feel of it, it really kind of gives you a nice feeling to start with. As for the 10-speed gearbox, you don't notice it all that much, which means it's probably doing its job well. The only caveat being that in stop-start traffic, it can be quite keen to swap between gears, which does become noticeable after a point. The soft rolling shifts go well with the engine's torquey nature. In the sportier modes, you do get slightly quicker shifts, but it's not a massive change. You always find the gearbox is ready to serve up performance whenever you need it to. For something of its size, the Land Cruiser is quite a quick car, doing the 0 to 100 kmph run in a tested 8.7 seconds. The downsizing has helped efficiency too, as our numbers suggest. And I must point out, yeah, while you do hear the diesel clatter in the cabin, it's a bit more than say a monocoque luxury SUV would be. There's not too much in the way of vibrations or other things that sort of make you feel like you are in something that may not be as refined as other cars at this price. The new Toyota Land Cruiser gets adaptive dampers and a reworked suspension setup that's still a live rear axle. You have many drive and terrain modes to choose from, but these aren't as gimmicky as you might think. You notice a clear progressive shift in the damping, engine response and steering feel as you toggle through the modes. Now coming to the suspension, it's again quite refined and you definitely have that indestructible bulletproof feel, like it'll go over anything, it'll take anything in its stride. For example, that was a ditch, I didn't really have to slow down for it. Even with the 20-inch wheels, they're a thick sidewall, they have 80 tires on them. So again, it gives you that kind of invincible, powerful sense that you get from a Land Cruiser, which maybe a lot of other SUVs miss, and maybe that's part of the aura of this car. So yeah, it's not like it's been completely transformed with all the tech that's on board. So for example, you do notice it shimmy and shake like how a ladder frame car would, but it's very controlled and very refined for what it is. So you're never really worried about managing its weight or managing its lean. Just like with the engine, you can keep making brisk, predictable progress, which is a great trait to have in something this big. But I have to say that in the absolute softest comfort modes, when you are going over the kind of broken surfaces that we come across in our monsoons regularly, there is maybe a touch too much pitching and bobbing, but surprisingly when you put it into sport, the dampers, everything sort of tighten up a little bit. So yes, you maybe feel a bit more of the impact, but the car actually feels a lot more level and composed, and to be honest, I found that to be a good mode to drive in as a default mode. Since many of you will probably not want to go trail hunting in something this expensive, we haven't bothered either. But even in this more road-focused ZX trim, the Toyota Land Cruiser will happily take you further than you will ever need to go. You have a low-range transfer case, a central diff locker, turn assist and crawl control function. The GR model gets chunkier off-road tires and front and rear diff locks, so it will do even more serious off-roading. And the steering, of course, it goes with the rest of the car's kind of demeanor. So it's not the most direct, it's not a performance SUV by any stretch of imagination. But just like the rest of the car, it's easy, predictable, and feels like it is on your side, for want of a better word. But the 300 seems to be very composed, almost at par with monocoque SUVs. When you're on a highway cruise at 100ish, it's completely steady, completely composed, very well tied down. There's none of that slight shimmying that you otherwise find in other monocoque SUVs. If you're looking to buy one in India, I think it should be one of the top reasons why you should pick this car. And then of course you have the handling. I mean, this car is not meant to handle, but I have to say that again, if you put it in the sport modes, it won't spring any surprises as long as you're not being stupid. So if you keep speeds in check, you can get a flow on, you can get a rhythm on very easily. It's not falling over itself. You're not second guessing its movements. So again, this seems to be a running theme. It may not be the tautest or the most feelsome, but it is predictable and secure. Priced at Rs 2.65 crore on-road Mumbai for this ZX variant, the Toyota Land Cruiser 300 goes up against some serious full-blown luxury SUVs. It may not match these rivals for flash and outright luxury and is still a bit compromised dynamically relative to these. The Land Cruiser seems to do luxury its own way. It gives you a sense of power and security few other cars give you, and its honest, reliable and predictive feel can be well worth the money if you value these attributes.